What's going on, y'all? It's J Smo Reviews here, back at it again with another video, man. Had another video prepped for you today. You might still see it later, but after the events of last night, figured I had to get another block up on this discussion topic, because it will be running rampant, I'd assume, for the next week plus, and that is Verb and Hitman's falling out, at least on a public level, as Hitman claims that they have not been cool since 2018, which, for some people, especially my Midwest fans out there, I know that that's like finding out Santa Claus isn't real, but, Verb had a line of cryptic tweets, which is a daily occurrence, so it wasn't too much to look at. It's about dropping audio and this and that and about another battler, but what we didn't expect is Hitman to hop online and say, Verb, I know what you're on. I know this BS. I know ever since you did it for the first time in 2018, so kind of referring to some pattern of behavior, which we found out is basically, to summarize it, although we'll talk about the things Hitman said specifically last night, saying that Verb's been hating on him behind the scenes and trying to block bags and fuck up his money behind the scenes, which obviously is a heinous accusation. And then he went online, he went on Spaces, which I'm sure has been posted everywhere by now, and talked in depth about, his whole how this happened, the history, what that first incident in 2018 is, and what they're arguing about right now. Am I shocked that Verb is being accused of this? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? Particularly all the stuff involving Gerald McCoy and trying to stronghold that money and those details that Hitman gave. It's a very believable story. You know what I'm saying? It's something that I've personally worried about when you see the way that Verb has been moving for the last year and a half, pretty much fully funded by Gerald McCoy. I think going back to the Suge battle, and Verb says it himself, I believe all those battles to some extent are funded by Gerald, and there's a big reason he's went on this big freedom and power, and power back to the battler situation. It's not because he loved RB or anything like that. Man already fell out with ARP the second that it wasn't advantageous to him. He just has a bag that's been at his disposal, and you've seen the ego building up with it over time, and now you get to a situation where even Hitman himself, with their long-standing history, is out here in the public talking about Verb's shenanigans. And, it's a very long story that Hitman tells, like a 40-45 minute space, but the synopsis of how we get to, the present day, right? Because he says, he starts out with when I was 15, so obviously it's a bit lengthy, but talks about being kind of playing second wheel in the Midwest movement while Verb was the face of it, which is 100% true. This is prime A. Verb. We're talking about Hitman was great too, but Verb was that central face of the Midwest movement, and not minding it, the money they got together, obviously making history, yada, 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 all leads up to 2018, where he talks about Verb kind of hating on him behind the scenes to ARP. I'd assume it's around when the Mook and Verb card happened, but basically saying, don't pay Hitman this money. You either pay him or you pay me. I'm the headlining type of talent. So belittling his boy, to get a bit of a bag, which I do not put past Verb. Like you can listen to these series of events and tell me if it's something that you don't believe that Verb would do. But basically saying that he let it go, although Verb was talking crazy about him behind the scenes, trying to get a bigger bag, and that's when the relationship starts falling out. So this is 2018, is a minute ago. It's crazy to think about when you're putting the timeline together, right? Fast forward, talks about, a few shots of Verb in there too. You don't do the views I do. You're not the headliner that I am. You've lost your last few battles in a row. Kind of calls him out his name a couple times too, kind of showing there's real venom here, and you can also stop him when he lied about any of those things that he's talking about with Verb. But you go on, and then you get to the modern day. Why are we right here yelling at each other on the internet publicly? And that is because apparently Beasley and URL have been in contact with Hitman Holla, trying to set up Mook versus Hitman and making headway on it and making the battle possible, right? And basically, to get the ball rolling, apparently, because Hitman also revealed that he battles for $200,000 or more. My chest hurt a little bit saying it again. It hurt a lot of bit hearing it last night. Incredible amount of money to be wrapping 9 minutes worth of material. But he says that in order to try to get the ball rolling, he reached out to, who else? Gerald McCoy, who, as we've spoken to, was a big part of 2023's whole St. Louis, Midwest, and RBE movement, and has really done, he's basically nursed Verb's career over the last few years, but overall has given a lot of money to some of these bigger St. Louis talents and making some battles happen. Making battles happen in general too. I believe that he sponsored Avon Hollow. So Gerald, we love what Gerald does for the culture. So Hitman hits him up, talk about we need some money to get the ball rolling on this, and ends up asking for $20,000. As a sponsorship, to get it to start up the writing process, saying he can't write until he's paid, and then talks about if it falls through, I'll pay you back the 20 later. All those details on their side of things. And basically, Beasley, as a marketing ploy, had told Hitman to tell people, don't tell people the battle's getting booked or that we talked, anything like that. Act like it isn't, keep the noise up so people don't know, and press for the battle too soon. And, Gerald took that. He's like, but you asked me for 20,000, just not communicating correctly there, right? So then, Gerald went for second opinions. He asked the ARPs of the world, and then went on to apparently ask Verb what he thinks he should do about the situation. And Verb does allegedly what he does in 2018, saying like, oh, Hitman is I wouldn't trust him, I wouldn't do that, he's scamming, which I think hits a little extra hard when you think about the fact that Hitman's longtime friend and recent manager he just parted ways with was scamming on his dollar, with his trucking company, and tying Hitman to it without him knowing it, which is a fucked up situation. I think that was a couple weeks ago when someone that close to you is doing something like that, when you put them in a position to succeed. Bad. But basically saying, he's scamming too. I wouldn't trust him. I wouldn't do it. And once again, throwing dirt on Hitman's name. And that's the basis. Like, if you're asking me how, like, that second part right there about that Gerald conversation, that is the basis of how we got here. Once again, playing with sponsorship money. And then talking about how Verb turned around and said, if Gerald's money goes through me now, you can't get it without me. And this is something that's been brewing for a long time, if you just see the way that Verb talks about, this sponsorship money. And, when Verb got on this whole going away from URL, taking the power back, and you know what I'm saying, being the man and shifting the sport, and the battlers taking it back. This is all just this is energy given to him by another man paying for his career. You know what I'm saying? That's just simply what it is. I believe I couldn't tell you the exact, because I don't know any of the exact business, but I believe going back to the Shotgun Shug battles when you start seeing this. I know last year, obviously, Gerald has funded the man's career. You know what I'm saying? Even going into this year with the Swamp battle, contrary to Easy saying he booked the battle, or he got on the battle. How'd you get in the battle if you didn't pay him any of the money and it's not your league? It's funny when you start seeing the ridiculousness. You start really looking at it, and it doesn't make any sense. And I just think Mr. Battler Empowerment, man against the machine in the system, Verb, talking about how they're changing the energy, and getting battlers paid what they should get paid, to find out this brother is gatekeeping money from other battlers that they should be getting paid. It's just poetic, and it just goes to show it doesn't even matter that it's so obvious and so upfront, because there will still be a couple big bitches by the end of this saying, oh, Verb predicted this months ago, you guys are just catching up. It's a never-ending cycle of stupidity with this fucking situation. And what you notice, and this is just something that happens in battle rap, is when someone slowly falls out with every league, every connection that they've had, whether they've done good or bad by you, there is eventually no limits to it. If you just keep letting ego grow, it will grow to a point that it implodes on itself. And I definitely think this is a terrible look. And it's not that terrible looks affect Verb too much, because the people that like Verb and care, they just live on a different world. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just going to follow him into a pit of lava if they had to. But I think particularly with Hitman, someone that is kind of a big part of, or an ally in a sense. Like, everyone had thought, obviously, St. Louis legends, they're cool. The degree to which the relationship is severed has not been public. But to kind of, after Verb has preached this freedom and taking the bag back and actually supporting battlers and kind of ganging together to go against URL and these evil systems, I think I'd say your biggest ally being the biggest battle rapper in the world right now, you know what I'm saying, the biggest draw, who headline Max Out 3, who's kind of like, even for as angry as people are at URL and all the talents that leave, the one big one, I mean, the biggest battle rapper in the world has not been on URL, and you were kind of leveraging that to go against him, because obviously Hitman's relationship with URL hasn't been that easy over the last few years. He hasn't battled there in like 7 years. So for that to kind of be flipping on you, I think is different than anyone else that has obviously been upset with Verb, because this is someone that you would think would be benefiting from the way that he moves, benefiting from his situation, kind of working with him on this movement in a sense. And it just ends up being another person that Verb has tried to use as a stepping stone behind the scenes. So pretty crazy situation. I think, the fact hearing him say, Verb is out of his mind, you know what I'm saying, egotistical, trying to steal money. I might have called him a bitch a couple times, you know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that it got to that level, I just think is a shocker. There's like 2,000 people listening to it last night. But in terms of believability, I have no reason to not believe Hitman, who just time and time again really does good for the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's situations of bringing back the biggest return on investment for leagues when they book them. I mean, every league, the RBs, the Chromes, even the URLs back in the day will say these things after they book Hitman. The fact that he's actually put people in this position to win with bags and bodies. Hell, I mean, he said it, we don't get Rum and Lux without him. If he doesn't basically force Lux to go and take that battle, I've just seen in his character there is times of sacrifice, as opposed to Verb, who yells a lot on spaces, right? So I just think that it is kind of a crazy full circle moment, but not much of a shocker at that. And now it's just a matter of seeing what the next domino of this is. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure the Verb will, as I speak, Verb might be having his response prepped or giving it, and I'm sure that he'll have some elongated rant. There is some audio, I suppose, which, it's very funny that everyone, audio when it was happening to Easy, it's the worst thing ever. It's police activity, this and that. But this is like Verb's like fourth time either threatening to drop audio or trying to drop audio. It's his signature move. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the man's signature. Eddie Guerrero had the frog splash. You know what I'm saying? Stone Cold has the Stone Cold Stunner. We got the rock bottom, the people's elbow. And Verb's got the wiretap. You know what I'm saying? That's his move. Verb has the wiretap. So we're going to end up seeing what the next chapter of it is. It is crazy altogether. And most importantly, overall, the arguing, legends not getting together. I heard Hitman saying, which, Black goes and asks him later in the space, is Mook and Hitman, has it fallen through? And he says that it has at the moment. They haven't heard back from sponsors, put a little bit of a delay in it. I hope that doesn't mean that it is done. I think that is, it's not a more perfect place for the battle to go down. I want Hitman and Mook in general. If it happened bags and body style, if it had happened on Chrome, like he said, it basically should have happened to begin with. I think that I would have been perfectly fine with that. But you get the return of Hitman to URL. That's a big thing in its own right. Any Mook battle that happens is a huge thing in its own right. And for them to battle each other on Hitman's return to URL, on URL, and what that undercard can look like. It's crazy. So even with those negative things, I'm going to send a prayer out there. I'm going to send a little battle rap prayer out there that this battle is still not fully fallen through and they're able to figure it out. Because a culture shifter to the core. If that battle was announced, honestly, this drama would just go the fuck away for a little bit, and we would only focus on that because that would have the attention of not just this corner of the culture, it would be one of the biggest battles ever booked in this sport's history. And with all that being said, I want to hear your guys' opinion in the comments down below. Obviously, I'm sure that we're only early in the saga of information and back and forth that's going to happen with this. But I want to hear, how do you feel? Do you believe Hitman? You know what I'm saying? In a sense, how greasy do you think the situation is? And in terms of Mook and Hitman, you know what I'm saying? Do you want to see it on URL? You know what I mean? And I guess there's nothing more to say about that. The setting for it and just your overall opinions, because there's so many different little details that are still going to probably come out. I'm sure this will not be my only video on the topic, but it's been Jay Smo Reviews again, y'all. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of this ridiculousness. And I'm gonna catch you on the next one, man. Peace.